entertainment, I'm sick of authorial intent. And I'm sick of these ding dong idiots coming to my YouTube videos and leaving comments saying that the author said this or the author said that. I don't give a fuck. I am a firm believer in the death of the author because just going by what the author says about their own work is incredibly fucking boring. Now, I'm not an artist by any means, but if I were an artist, I would hate to just tell someone what my work is about. I don't care to tell somebody what it's about because I believe at a fundamental level that art is about the experience and the growth that somebody goes through in processing and interpreting what it means to them. And I'll use an example of Pan's Labyrinth. So, in Pan's Labyrinth, there's a scene where a character bashes another character's face in with a beer bottle, and the beer bottle does not break. Normally in movies, beer bottles break over people's heads and it's kind of almost like a slapstick moment. But in this movie, the beer bottle does not break and it beats the guy's nose in until he's dead. It's unexpected and it's incredibly, violent and graphic. And because I have that experience from other movies that are informing my understanding of that scene, it impacts my interpretation of it. So that those are the things that I think. And then I listened to the movie's commentary, and it turns out that the reason this scene was like that is because the director witnessed a bar fight and he realized that beer bottles don't break, that they're actually really sturdy. So if you hit somebody with it, it's going to generally stay together. And so having that in the movie was informed by his own experience, but really didn't have anything to do with my interpretation of it. So despite what the author intended and experienced and put in his movie because of his experience, I had a different expectation based on meta knowledge about movies in general that informed my reaction to that. And in that way, I grow and develop as a person because I begin to understand art in a more complex way. That beer bottles don't always break, and that violence is actually more graphic and scary than it is cool and exciting. That isn't a moment of personal growth that if you just go to the author and say, okay, why did this happen? And you don't process or think, then you just get an answer to a question that is pointless to be asked in the first place because you were only ever at the surface level. You didn't do anything to engage with the art. You just looked at what the puzzle was. Put the puzzle together for me, please, author. That's what it comes down to a lot of the times, I feel like, is that if we go by authorial intent, we're putting the narrative together and then we're telling them, okay, what is the picture? And they're ignoring the fact that as you piece things together, you are developing your own understanding. And when you finally put things together, the experience of putting things together is a process in itself as reflective of the experience of the art. And to just ask, hey, author, what happened? Oh, okay. Oh, it's a Dyson sphere, you said? Oh, okay, sure, yeah. But what evidence is there? And that's the other issue I get at, is that in the manga Blame, I keep getting constant comments from people that are telling me that the mangaka said in an interview that the megastructure in the manga is a Dyson sphere. My problem is that one, that's fucking lazy. Two, where is the evidence of this in the manga? I don't see any evidence in the manga of this being a Dyson sphere. And three, what does it fucking matter? What does it matter if it is a Dyson sphere or not? Personally, I don't think it's a Dyson sphere given how it grows out from the world and it's already consumed another planet. That usually a Dyson sphere has to vent heat somewhere. The heat has to go somewhere. You're trapping in a sun, and there's a lot of heat that's there. It has to go somewhere. The Dyson sphere, the megastructure in Blame is completely enclosed. There's nowhere for the heat to go. So I don't see how that would allow it to generate energy. However they generate energy has to be completely different than just like a Dyson sphere kind of thing. But that aside, what does it change the story? What does it matter? They never go to the sun. We're never concerned about the megastructure running out of power or the power source that the megastructure even generates energy from. That's never a question. So what does it fucking matter if it's a Dyson sphere or not? And I think that's the question that I find most interesting. And I think I have an answer for it, which is that people who are superficially engaged with art need to look at external signifiers of coolness to then feel better about the lackluster nature of the art itself. Because Blame is really fucking boring. I've read the whole manga, which is more than, I think, 99% of the people that comment on my fucking videos, and I can tell you the manga is fucking boring. The best story in Blame is in the first fucking volume, when Killy inadvertently helps human smugglers, essentially. I mean, they're not humans, but they're some type of human. He inadvertently helps these body smugglers, and when he finds out that that's what he did, he just starts killing all of them. That is a really interesting moment in the manga for me, and it's never anything as interesting as that ever again in the manga. The one time we get some flashbacks from Killy's memory, it's so just minimal and sparse, and the art is terrible at that point in the manga, that it's a complete disappointment. You don't glean anything from it. And then the people will bring in like, oh, well, you gotta read Noise, you gotta read all this side material. Hey, guess what? I read the side material. It fucking sucks. If you just want to see panty shots of all the female characters from Blame sexualized as high school girls, then go right ahead. Enjoy the side content for Blame, because if that is what you're appealing to as your source of, meta knowledge about the story in Blame, you are fucking stupid. You are genuinely fucking stupid. It's just so pointless to me to engage in art in such an arbitrary, like, please author, tell me what the story is, because at some point the author will be dead, or at some point the author can change his mind, or the author can just be fucking wrong. Like, you could be wrong about your art, and it really is, I feel, offensive to your own creation as an artist to say what it's about. Like, we would never say, like, here's what my kid is about, in supplanting that person's ability to be somebody. Like, parents that do that kind of thing, where they like really push their kid to be something that they want them to be, are generally miserable people. And it's kind of like doing that with art, where it's like, okay, my art has to be this, so I have to go around and I have to tell everyone that my art is this, because I don't want them to misunderstand it. Kind of like with the writer for 500 Days of Summer, where if you see 500 Days of Summer, it's a kind of controversial movie in terms of people's understanding of it, because the main character Tom gets a lot of flack for being in the wrong, supposedly, or he's the villain because he doesn't perfectly understand this woman who is avoidant and flaky and not honest with herself. And it's like, well, no, Tom is actually 100% in the right because he's honest. And Summer is a complete fucking pile of shit. And if you disagree, go fuck yourself. You're just wrong. It is so disgusting the way Summer engages in the relationship with Tom after what she knows about him and his belief in love and pursuit of a relationship, that she leads him on and then just fucking lets things fizzle, even though he's the one who tries to keep himself from engaging in that thing because he knows that she doesn't want it. It's such fucking horseshit. And I find it funny that the writer of that movie puts in at the beginning of the movie, fuck you, bitch, and then the name of this real girl who supposedly inspired his story that he went through with this girl. And he goes around and he pretends in these interviews to kind of be aware of his failings in the relationship. And everyone else kind of, the Gordon Levitt, Jason? What is his name? Whatever. Gordon Levitt guy and the director, they kind of go and say like, oh no, like, this is why what Tom is doing is wrong in these scenes. And they're not wrong. They're having an interpretation of it. They are, which is totally fine. The problem is that in this case, we know the author. We know the author's words, where he pretends to chastise Tom slash himself for the things that he supposedly did the wrong in the relationship. But when you look further into it, he seemed to have actually and intentionally just wrote this movie out of vindictive spite towards this girl he had a relationship with, so far that he was keeping up with her. He even sent her like the script, and he says supposedly that, oh yeah, like that she was okay with it. And then the day the movie comes out, he's keeping up with her such that he knows that their friendship status on Facebook, and then she blocks him. So when you have this author who kind of changes their story depending on the pushback they get about the story, how can you trust that person to tell you what the meaning of the story is? And in fact, why would you even want to? Why would you want to listen to somebody who, depending on the company that they have around them when they are talking about the art that they wrote, changes what the art means? Because in different interviews, he gives different interpretations of the character. Sometimes, if he's alone, he'll defend Tom. If he's with, the actor and the director, he'll be meekish and he'll be kind of acquiesce to what their interpretation is, and he'll agree with them. And in other spaces, he'll say that he's kind of grown and changed and he understands it now, depending on the space that he is. Why would you ever want to appeal to an author like that? That just didn't work for art. That's not a way to understand and interpret and experience art, is just by going by what the author says. Because what if the author is untrustworthy? What if the author is a fucking nut job who needs to be, not allowed to comment on their own art because they're just wrong? They're wrong because they're too wound up in their own art to have an actual opinion about it, because they made their art from a place of toxicity. They made their art from a place of wanting to hurt someone. So we shouldn't listen to that person. There are just, I feel, so many reasons not to go by what an author says about their own art that I just never want to hear what the author says about their own art. Because ultimately, when you make art, it is an experience that is, distilled in that experience. Like, you go to a museum and you see something on the wall, and you see it as it is presented in that manner. And you don't see the creation, you don't see, the paints, the oils, the things that informed the piece. You just see it based on your filter of the world. And I think I have there's a painting that I still think about today, where it looked like it was just these kind of slums. There was like Coca-Cola stuff, and it was just like some South American picture, and it looked kind of slummy. And I thought, oh, this is kind of interesting, but I don't get it. And then there was a little placard that kind of explained, like, what the paint is, or what the paint was, or something about that. And then the experiences a little bit that informed the person's art, and just a little bit about the person. And after getting that little bit of information, changed my perspective of it. But it wasn't that the author just told me what it meant. When I understand the process of creation, that enhanced my understanding and appreciation of the art. Because when you just see something that's finished, it's really hard to understand, oh, like, this is so much harder to make, and it makes you appreciate it more. So the more information that I have enhances my appreciation and processing of whatever the art is. And when I read that, then I looked at this differently, as like, okay, now I'm putting myself in the shoes of the person who makes this. And I'm like, okay, this is a thing that I'm creating. I can see the strokes. I can see where the brush must have left off the canvas. And I can imagine the actual, fidelity and the talent that it would take to make this. And that enhances things for me. But in that instance, I needed more information, but it wasn't information that the author told me. It was more information that just existed about the creation of art in itself. And I was like, okay, yeah, now I get this. I can see why these things mattered to put down, or maybe even were kind of like a kind of corporate imperialism or something. Whereas before, I'm just like, oh, this looks like lame kind of ghetto advertisement almost. Like, it was very strange before. I didn't understand it, and I needed more context. But it wasn't context that the author just says, "Oh yes, growing up, Coca-Cola owned everything and it made my life terrible." That's not what they said. That wasn't there at all. So there is a way to engage with getting clarity on things, especially when it comes to like literal, painting art, because there isn't like an auditory medium that kind of it can express things to you. It's a little bit harder in that way. But when it comes to movies or comic books or manga or whatever, I feel like a lot of the time the author is used as the end all be all end of arguments or debate surrounding art, which just ruins the process of experiencing and engaging what the art is or means. That is what ruins Higurashi for me. At the end of Higurashi, there's always these sections where the characters are talking about themselves as if they are characters in a story, and the author even like talks at length, I believe at the end of chapter 7 or before chapter 8, about his kind of ethics and philosophy. And I think the beliefs that he expresses that are in the visual novel that you can choose to read ruin the story, because his beliefs, ethics are stupid. It is not the responsibility of high school children to find a non-violent solution to somebody who literally wants to genocide their entire town and rip out the guts of like an 11-year-old girl. That is insane. It is okay to kill someone that wants to kill you in self-defense. If the person that wants to kill you wants to kill a town of 1,000 people, morally, it is perfectly acceptable to kill that person when you know their intent and you know that they've done it hundreds of times because you've lived time loops experiencing that. It is insane to make any argument alternatively. It is absolutely fucking insane. And the fact that the author comes out against a violent solution is fucking insane. I don't want your opinion because your opinion is dumb. And the only reason you put your opinion, your authorial opinion, in the story was because you were afraid at how stupid the moral complications of this situation were, and you needed to justify it with your stupid philosophy. But no, it's not the responsibility of high schoolers to justify or to find a non-violent solution to their problem when the person that the problem is coming from is a violent nut job. That is the stupidest thing imaginable. I just do not see a benefit for going by the words of the author. There are too many instances that I've experienced where going by what the author says about something is generally just damaging to the art itself, or just not fun or interesting or boring, or it just circumvents the entire process or experience of art itself. It is fucking lame as hell. So I don't know. I think the next time I get a comment from somebody telling me that the author said this or the author said that, I'm just going to link them this video and, tell me why you find value in authorial intent, because I'm just so bored of this conversation with people that they just want answers and they don't want experience. And I value experience over answers, because if you experience, you process, you can develop your own answers, and that allows you to grow as a person. Whereas if the author just tells me something, I've done no work other than just simply asking or seeking out clarification on something. And that can work sometimes depending on the nature of the art, but most of the time it's just, oh, cool trivia that enhances my appreciation of something. Like, oh, did you know that in this scene Harrison Ford broke his foot or whatever the fuck? Like, okay, who cares? Or Viggo Mortensen broke his arm when he was doing some scene in Lord of the Rings or whatever. So like when he looks like he's in pain, he's really in pain. It's like, okay, well, yeah, but he's also an actor and he's supposed to, be acting out what is going on right now. Like, it's just trivia. Like, the author should just be used as trivia, I think. That's kind of where I land. It's like, oh, okay, that's cool. But what does it mean? What does it tell you about the performance? How do you appreciate that? Because once you know that information, you can't take it back from the art. You can't untie it. You can't unknow something. So it permanently corrupts your thoughts about the art with something that is like, oh, well, regardless of what I think about the art, I always know that there's a place that can supplant it. I always know that there's like somebody I can appeal to that can just take away all of my personal effort. So why even make it? Which is why I believe in death of the author, because I don't want somebody like that to exist, to come in and just be like, oh, this is what it is, goodbye. Because it's so boring. It's like aliens showing up and telling humanity the meaning of life or whatever, which I think is a very stupid question, but it would be the thing that I would go to, is like to explain how boring that experience of just going to the author. So, yeah. If you ever comment that the author said blank, or the director said this about their movie that I have in a video, I'm going to be linking this right to you. God damn it.